Mindset Mashup podcast. Here we are, another. I feel like I'm smashing these out quicker nowadays, which is always nice. I want to welcome my guest today, Dayna. Dayna, I don't want to introduce you. I want you to introduce yourself because I want to make sure that I say all the right that I introduce you properly. So I'm going to let you do that. So Dayna, please introduce yourself to the people.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Dayna Pereira. I host two shows. One is a comedy show called That Trophy Wife Life. It's comedy and self-improvement. And then I host another, a little bit of a raunchier show called The Dirty Little Secrets Club. And I just created the Entertainers Network. So I guess I'm like a jack of all trades here. I'm all over the place with the shit that I'm getting into.
I like self-improvement and comedy. I feel like that's a good mix because I feel sometimes it can be a bit too serious. Like there's some people who can be a bit too serious. You need that lighter side to it.
Absolutely. And if you're not laughing at your mistakes and the stuff that you did, like nobody out there is perfect. You have to have a little humor with that because if you don't, you're just going to cry the whole time, you know? And that's not fun for anyone.
And I feel like you can actually get lost in that self-improvement journey as well when you take it too seriously, when you're trying to like, oh, right, I need to fix this, I need to change everything about me. You sort of get lost and forget who you are in the making of it all. Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean because there are a lot of people and I'm guilty of it too. Like there are times where you end up getting down on yourself because you're not self-improving the way that you thought that you would be. Like I made a resolution at the beginning of the year that I was going to write in my journal, every day. Well, you know what? That shit didn't happen. I write in my journal maybe once every 3 to 5 days. You got to roll with the punches,
Yeah, no,
Give
definitely.
yourself a little grace.
Definitely, and I think like it's nice because you have to enjoy life, man. Like you just have to. I'm so big on that now. As I get older, I feel like I appreciate that more and more. Like just waking up each morning, it's a blessing, Not everyone gets to do that.
Yes. So funny story. I'm gonna turn 40 in April.
Oh, well, I
And
would never. I would have said 30. I would have
oh
said
well,
turning 30.
thank you.
Yeah.
But so I remember specifically when my mother was turning 50, she disappeared. She was so upset about turning 50 that she just dropped off the face of the earth. She went into stayed in a hotel somewhere and just was just bumming out by herself because she was turning 50. And I remember thinking you didn't give any of your kids a chance to celebrate you and love you and be grateful for another year with you. And ever since then, I took away from her mistake and I was like, I will never be upset about aging another year. I might complain that I'm getting wrinkles here or my ass is sagging or, whatever. Sure, I'll complain about it, but I'm fucking lucky to live another year. I'm
Yeah,
fucking lucky that I get to be 40 and I hope that
yeah,
I get to be 50 and 60 and
yeah,
70 and so forth. And so, I agree with what you're saying there. It's a privilege to
yeah.
get older.
It's like almost like an illusion, isn't it? Like that, as we get older, we have sort of like more to complain about. Like it's just sort of like these weird little myth, it's not a myth, but these little weird things that we say as people, like, oh, another birthday. Like I'm 28, so now a lot of people in my circle I see online is, everyone said it'll be figured out by 30. LOL, my life's a joke. Or
Yeah.
so it's like stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some of the memes are quite funny. It actually sort of like I saw a bit of your content, Dayna, and you mentioned about I've got it down here. You said in one of your posts about it wasn't until you were in your later 30s that you started finding the confidence and self-love to go after your dreams.
Yes. Yeah. It's really interesting that the world kind of beats it into our head that we need to have all of our lives figured out by our late 20s or, if you're 30 years old, you're still a kid pretty
Yeah,
much,
yeah,
you still have room to figure things out. You don't need
yeah,
to be at the top of your game when you hit 30.
definitely.
And I definitely did not have the self-confidence. I started my show 2 years ago. It took me until I was 37 to get the confidence to start my show. And the way that it has grown since then, has been mind blowing to me. It's opened up
Yeah.
so many doors and opportunities. If I would have given up when I was 33, thinking that I should have had all of my dreams at my fingertips at that point, that's a load of crap. You can find love when you're 60. You can start a new career when you're 55. You
Yeah,
can, like, you get to make your own rules. Like,
definitely.
fuck this world putting its, standards on you. You get to choose what you want to do with your life.
It's funny, isn't it? Because then what happens? You're like, oh yeah, I can't do, I can't do this because I'm this age, and then you get to another age, and it's like, well, I could have been doing this already, like when I was for a longer amount of time, and you can have more experience. And I feel like it's almost becomes an excuse, doesn't it? Because it does, you said, it doesn't matter about the age.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot, okay, maybe once upon a time you had to have things out when had to have things figured out when you're 30. Maybe when life expectancy was like 42,
Right.
like
Yeah.
100 years ago, you had to have it figured out. But now, like, we're living to like 80, 90 years old, so we have more time to figure things out. So, Dana, I think the question I've got for you is, where did that confidence and self-love start to come, like start to come in for you? Did something happen and you like, right, I need to turn it all around, or what was the journey to that?
I have a little sister and she is 12 years younger than me. And we've always been close. And I've watched her. She's an amazing singer, an amazing dancer. She was doing musical theater. She had dreams of going onto Broadway. She lived in New York City, and then the pandemic hit, and now she doesn't. But she has always had this confidence that I never did. And one day she was like, "Hey, I'm going to this women's conference. It's called Pays to Be Brave." And she's like, "Do you want to go with me?" Because it was in San Diego where I live. And I was like, "Yeah, sure, whatever, I'll go." Changed my life.
Really?
Changed my life. Being
Mm,
around a group of people, and I'm talking like 1,000 people
mm.
that all had dreams and were supporting each other and were lifting each other up, and just being in that atmosphere of women really changed my perspective. And one of the things that they kept saying over and over again, and there were two of them that I'll throw out there. The first one was, "Why not me? Why not now?" And that really
That's
stuck
cool.
with me. I was like, you know
I
what?
like that.
Yeah, why not
Yeah,
me? Why not now?
yeah. So true.
It could be, I mean, Britney Spears, was thrown into a life that ended up being very tragic for her. And she, but she started out, she was just a kid that had this confidence that was like, "Yo, I can do it. Let's go." And I wish that I had that childlike confidence. I wish everyone had childlike confidence whenever they were in their 20s or 30s when, they could actually do something with it. And then the other thing that they said over and over and over again that has become my motto is, "Don't be afraid to suck."
Woo!
Everybody sucks.
Yeah,
Everybody sucks their first time.
yeah,
Like, you're not going to have a soccer star when he's 4 years old going out onto the field and nailing it,
yeah.
or it just in general, don't be afraid to suck. And I was like, you know what? If there are people that are looking at me and judging me and thinking that I suck, I can guarantee you those people aren't brave enough to do what I did starting my show and chasing my dreams. Those are the people that are stuck in their jobs, that are too scared to, have a dream and go after it. Those are the ones that are going to judge you. The
Yeah,
ones that are going to support you are the ones that are brave enough to go after their own dreams, and they know what it takes. And they're there to tell you, like, "You got this. Let's go. You can do this," because they know. So
yeah.
don't let people judge you, because the ones that are judging you are the ones that are shaking in their boots to start anything of their own.
Yeah, and I think that's so true. Like I always say, like never judge the person in the arena. Like if they're in the arena and they're the one doing it, like
Yeah.
you're not even doing nothing. Like how are you
Yeah.
judging anyone? Like don't
Yes.
put your unhappiness onto me. Do you know what I mean? Like you keep that over there. Like I don't.
Absolutely.
But it does. Do you know what though? That's easier said than done, isn't it? Because
Hmm.
in your head, you've always got that. Oh God, I wonder what they're thinking about me. I wonder if they even. I don't know. There's that always that I wonder. like sentence
Always.
going on. Um,
Always.
but I admire that, Dana, because I admire even more because I know that you're also a mother and you've got 4 children as well. So
Mhm.
I feel like you must have had every excuse or reason, I should say, to go, oh, nah, do you know what? Maybe I should just not do that because I've got to focus on this. And you went out there and done it. And I completely admire that. And I'm so inspired by women almost for that reason, because I think they have got, not that men don't have this, but they've got much more maternal instinct, I think. And like they put stuff like that first.
Yeah. Yeah, especially with 4 kids, because there's, I'm also a little bit of a control freak. So whenever I want something done and I want it done the right way, and
Yeah.
I have my kids range from 16. My oldest is 16, and he just got his driver's license, and my youngest is 4.
Mm.
And so, there's two different groups of parenting right now where it's like the teenager stuff that I'm like, wear protection, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And then, down here, protection is a helmet, like up
Yeah.
here, it's
Yeah.
a condom, down here, it's a
Yeah.
helmet.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that.
And so, luckily, my husband is very supportive of it. And whenever I'm like, okay, I need to go record, he's like, all right, what do I got to do? And I'm like, you need to make dinner, but you need to do it this way. And then when you're done, you got to do that, and so I think it's really important to have a really supportive partner that recognizes that you doing something for yourself is a benefit for the entire family.
Yeah, I was going to come on to that because ultimately I think that putting yourself first in the parenting world becomes almost a bit of like a stigma, doesn't it? Like, oh,
Yeah.
look, you can't put yourself first. Like, you got kids, but actually, no. If you put yourself first, that's almost fuel for your kids, for your family, so they can sort of see more of you and have more of that good energy that you can bring out when you're doing the things that you love to do or the things that you feel passionate about building. And
Yeah. Yeah. It's with movies and stuff like that. I think back to these movies. Everyone makes sacrifice this like
yeah,
big heroic thing. Like, oh, well, they sacrificed their life for their children. And
mm,
it's not brave. It's not. It's not
mm,
brave to
mm,
sacrifice, to give up your dreams. It's if you are the person that is able to lead by example for your children, like my kids know that, if they want to do something, that all they have to do is try. And guess what? If you try it out and you don't like it, you don't got to do it. Switch directions, change course,
and the thing is, they're probably learning that from watching you rather than the things that we say. Like I'm not a parenting. I'm sorry. I'm not a parent. So I don't want to give loads of advice because people are like, what do you know? But I think the things that I've learned through my parents are more the things that they've done, not the things that they've said. Because
Yeah.
when I see something, it's like, oh, so they can be like, oh yeah, no, my mum started her own podcast. I saw her start her own Instagram, build up that. So that will, what you say will match your actions, which will ultimately help them develop within themselves without you having to say it as well. Does that make sense? Am I making
It
sense?
does. It does. And also, I think like whenever I was 20 years old, podcasting wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
Like doing interviews over Zoom and stuff like that, it wasn't a thing. And so I think also having the kids recognize that they might not even be able to imagine in their wildest dreams what they're going to be doing in 20 years from now.
Yeah.
So
And there's
I
so
kind
much.
of like to do that too. Like, yo, guys, I had no idea that I would be sitting in front of a microphone talking to the world, basically.
Yeah.
You never know. It's crazy what the world comes up with.
So where did the podcast? How did that happen? Like, what made you go? This is the route I'm gonna go down.
Honestly, it was the easiest way that I could get in front of people without actually having to like be live about it or on a stage,
Mm,
because being on a stage scared the crap out of me. I
mm,
was, I've thought about going into stand-up comedy for quite a while now, but the idea of being on a stage like made me want to crap my pants. Like I just
yeah.
was not, I couldn't do it. And with podcasting, I was like, well, I can edit that bitch, like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I can make it sound how I want it to sound. If I screw up something, I can just cut it out,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so originally I had started on Twitter and I was just making jokes about my family and myself and, drinking wine and, all the typical stuff that's relatable to most people. And I just ended up growing from there. And so I was like, all right, well, what can I do with this? And little did I know, you can have 40,000 people following you on Twitter or 100,000 people or 1 million people. It doesn't always translate over to the next thing you're going to do. You can promote to all of those people and 0.01% are actually going to go and check out the other
Yeah,
thing that you're
it's
doing.
true. It's true. It's true. So is that where basically you saw success on Twitter and then you started building up. Like, do you know what?
Yeah.
Just when you said about getting on stage, like, I feel like I'm fairly comfortable speaking in front of people, but speaking in front of people trying to make people laugh, for me that puts a lump in my throat even now, just thinking that I'd have to try to make someone
Yeah.
laugh. That must be a whole nother sort of pressure because you're trying to make something land for other people to make them like
Yes.
laugh.
I had a friend that I had interviewed. We met through podcasting, which is another one of my favorite things. I've met so many
Yeah.
friends through podcasting. And his name was Stefan, and he is a stand-up comedian. And he was like, Dayna, you need to do stand-up. And I was like, not ready. Maybe I'll get there one day, but right now is not that day. And he's like, okay, take an improv class. And I was like, all right, I'll think about it. And he's like, no, just take an improv class. Like, trust me. And I was like, all right. And I sucked it up in January. I signed up for an improv class and I've been doing it for 8 weeks now. I've been up on stage in front of people.
How was it? How was it?
So fun.
Did you
So
enjoy it?
fun. Oh my God. It was
That's so
such
good.
a rush. So every Saturday I go to improv and every Saturday I leave with my cheeks just aching from smiling and laughing so hard. And this group of people that I started improv with, we were all strangers. And now I can't wait to see them every week. It's like this whole community of people that are being weird as fuck together. And nobody has any fear of looking stupid because we all look so stupid and we screw up. And when we screw up, we just die laughing and
Oh, I
applauding.
love
And
that.
it's so fun. And I think about that. Like I try and do something new. I figured like, oh, once a year I'll try something new. And, now I'm getting older. I'm like, I should probably maybe push that to once every 3 months or so,
Yeah,
really knock them out.
yeah.
But improv is something that I am so grateful for. And it just, even when I talk about it, I just feel like I light up because I
Yeah,
just
I
love
can
it
feel it.
so
I can
much.
feel it. I can feel it. I can feel it. I can feel it from here in UK. I can feel it.
Yeah, it's so great. It's so great. It's something that I am so grateful to my friend for telling me to do it because he was right. I trusted him and man, it really paid off.
I think there's a message there, isn't there, for people that might be listening, that might they know that they should do that thing at the back of their head. They know deep down, and sometimes it's taking that first step
Yeah.
that you go, oh, you sort of almost go, I should have done this weeks ago. Like sort of thing.
Yes.
You sort of
Yeah.
get that feeling, don't you? Like it, because you do have fun with it, I think, don't you?
Yes, and it's like the scared thing, like we allow fear to hold us back from so much. If I just sat in my fear instead of saying, screw it, I'm going to try it out. And also recognizing that if I don't like it after the first one, I don't have to go back.
Yeah,
Nobody's holding a gun to my head telling me I
yeah,
have to go to improv.
yeah.
Do it scared. Go the first time. Try something new out. And it was the best decision I ever made. Well, maybe not ever, but it was a very good decision.
Yeah, I think, do you know what? I think as well, it helps you expand that comfort zone, doesn't it? So it pushes you out of that. Then all of a sudden, it just starts getting bigger and you start trying more things. Then you start gaining more experience, which then helps you. I can only imagine that it's helped you in other areas of your life because I've had experience very similar to that where I've sort of known or felt like I should have done something, put it off, then I've done it, and it's helped me in so many other areas of my life. And I really had that moment where I go, why did you wait so long for this? And
Yeah.
I almost love those moments, but I also don't like those moments at the same time.
Yeah, you know what I do with moments like that? And, I'm very big on like meditating and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I really feel like sometimes without pushing ourselves. Sometimes it's just because our bodies or our person is just not ready for it yet. Like you
Yeah.
have the inkling and you think about it, but you're not ready yet. And the universe is kind of like, okay, not yet, not yet. Not okay, go. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah, and I think you are right. Actually, I feel like you have to grow through certain restrictions and fears, don't you? Or at least not. You might not go over the fear, but just grow through it enough to, as you said, like to get that go, to get that
Yes,
go
yeah.
sort of point. And
Yeah, green light.
yeah, exactly. Foot to the floor. um, you mentioned Dana about self improvement earlier on. You mentioned there about meditation. So I often ask this question on the podcast, but what does mindset mean to you and how does it impact your life?
Man, mindset I feel is so important because it really shapes your day. If you wake up in the morning and you're like, ugh, fuck this, I'm tired, my back hurts, like I have a whole list of stuff that I have to get done, and you're just like grouchy about it, like that's what your day is.
Yeah,
And, and you can switch that around too, take 10
yeah.
minutes, sit down, breathe, or, meditate, whatever, and kind of, reassess and try and change your attitude, which I have to do sometimes. Like,
Of course, yeah.
there's a lot of times that I will wake up in the morning and I am ready to go. I'm like, yes, I got this. And then, halfway through the day, I'm like, I'm so fucking tired. I'm so irritable. I'm snapping at people. And, I looked at my husband just last week and I was like, I don't know what's wrong with me right now. Like, I get halfway through my day and then I'm a mess, And he's like, go take some time for yourself. You're a mess because all you're doing is giving your energy and giving your energy and giving your energy. Go recharge. Go sit in the sun. Go listen to a fucking bird tweet. Like whatever you got to do, to recharge yourself. Go do that.
Yeah. I like that. I like that. Is that what you do to recharge? Go listen to bird tweets, or is that a thing? Or see if that was. I mean,
Embarrassingly so. I'm real into birds
it's
lately.
cool. It's cool. I mean, I'll be honest. I'll be honest, Dana. I'm absolutely terrified of any flying creature. I'll be honest. I don't know why, but I just am. But I just like the way you phrased that. And you mentioned something that I want to speak about as well is leadership, because that's another thing I'm big on: leadership in business, leadership in life. I feel like no one quite knows leadership as well as a mum, or as well as a parent. And you spoke about the importance of mindset, and it's almost like what you're saying is that like half full or half empty sort of mindset. Like, and I feel like you've got to be grateful. And as you said, sometimes you have to recharge. You have to update the software. We update our phones, update our laptops, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we have just got to take that minute, don't we? Listen to the birds tweet or whatever it is, whatever that is for you. I mean, for me,
Yeah.
I love a sauna. I think being in the UK, we don't always get the hot weather, so I feel like just having a little bit of a little bit of like hotness now and then does well for me. But on on leadership, what do you think makes a a good leader? What do you think makes an impactful leader?
You know, I feel like so many people think that they have to be a hard ass when they're a leader. They have to demand respect, but they don't give any. And I think
Mm,
that that is a really big problem. And I'll throw my husband under the bus too. My husband owns a construction company. When I first met him, I was appalled at how
really?
he treated his employees. The way he spoke to them, the way he'd be like, "What are you, a fucking idiot? Go get this." And I was like, "Who do you think you are?" Like and his employees who are still with him today, they'll tell you they were working on our house one day. I heard my husband talking to them like that. I marched my 8 months pregnant ass outside and I let him have it. I was like, how dare they are human beings
Mm,
that are helping us out right now. And you have the audacity to try and break them down because they dropped a hammer,
mm,
like
yeah.
I was very upset. And since then, and he doesn't do it anymore, or at least let's say he does it less. I don't know
Yeah,
what goes on the
yeah,
world. Let's say he does it less.
yeah.
But I really feel like respecting people and having some grace and compassion And recognizing too that if you are in a job situation, that they have lives outside of there, and their most important part of their life isn't your work, it's their home life.
Yeah.
Just as it would be for my husband. My husband's most important part of his life is not his company, it's his kids and his wife and his home life.
Yeah.
And I really think that a great leader is one that can listen, one that can admit when they're wrong, and one that leads with compassion first and foremost.
Yeah, I think it's so important, and I love what you said there about the other responsibilities, because I think as a leader, you're actually partially responsible for the happiness of so many other people, not just the
Mhm.
employee as well. That's including their families, their kids, and stuff like that. Because, like, yeah, I'm really glad to hear that sort of like you said that, and I feel like we do need to be whistleblowing and we do need to be calling out their leaders, because I'm sure that your husband's way down on the list. I'm sure it's that's not part of him, but there's people out there that are really doing that every single hour. People are in work, or at least more times of the week that they're not. Then that person takes that home, don't they? Then that goes on
Yeah.
their kids, and then that, and it's a domino effect without realizing. And I really do believe that as leaders, as people with, and we've all got a voice now, haven't we, because of these platforms.
Yeah.
And I just think it's so important that we recognize that actually leadership is, we're responsible for other people's happiness as well, because they do rely on the way people treat them, and we all do. Like, no one likes being spoken to like shit at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And once often, I don't know why, I don't know if this is a fact or not, but I feel like it is a domino effect when you get spoken to like crap. Like, you're like, oh yeah, like I need to like get that out somewhere else. And
Yeah, well, it's energy, right? Like I'm a little
mm,
woo woo and it's all energy. And you can tell when the energy gets sucked out of a place, you can
yeah,
physically feel it
yeah,
being sucked out. Or,
yeah.
if you walk into a party and it's high energy, you walk in there and you're like, whoop,
Yeah,
and,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you get high energy too. And I just think that so often, uh, it's taught to us that way, that a leader does a certain thing and acts a certain way, and it's really all about reteaching and recalibrating that position of power, because power is not being demanding and being a dickhead essentially,
Yes, definitely not. I mean, I'm going to be a massive Marvel geek now and talk about Spider-Man quote with sort of much power becomes. So, what's the quote? Help me out, Dana. Help me out. It's
I'm like, you
the
want me to Google it? I'm not.
yeah, 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 yeah. Basically saying like with great power comes great responsibility. That's the quote, and that's the I knew I'd get there in the end.
You
And
got it.
I feel like when you're in those positions as a leader, it's almost your job to set the expectation of what you should do in times of challenge. Because if you're in business, if you're in a leadership role, there's going to be times of challenge. There's going to be
Hmm.
times where it's not going your way. There's going to be times where things go
Yeah.
wrong. That's all guaranteed throughout life for anyone. But when you're in a leadership position, you've almost got the opportunity to inspire someone and motivate someone by showing them integrity, compassion, sort of resilience, and instead of
Yeah.
like everything going to shit, you sort of step up and go, oh no, when actually when that goes wrong, I'm gonna double up. I'm gonna double up on my kindness. I'm gonna double up on my leadership skills and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I'm sure that as a parent, that must be quite a
it
hard thing to do,
it
especially before
is,
kids.
it
I imagine it's
is.
challenging.
Yeah. And I'm not perfect. And I used to really be hard on myself whenever I would screw up. There are times where I'm going through something and my kid happens to say the wrong thing and I like snap at him and, stuff like that. And so the other thing that I've realized that I've really started talking to my teenagers about, especially, I went through things as a child in which now I project my shit onto their
Yeah.
relationships. And so, like, I had it really hard growing up with my stepfather. My stepfather and I didn't get along very well. We do now, I should say. I adore him and I love him so much. But as a teenager, I was going through some shit. We didn't get along. We fought all the time. My life was miserable. I didn't want to go home. I went through so much shit with my stepfather that whenever I met my husband, my teenagers were 3 and 4 when I met my husband. And I was so afraid that they were going to be miserable and hate him and
Mm,
fight with him all the time, to the point where I'm overprotective of my children. And I tell my husband all the time, I'm like, you're a grown ass adult. They're kids that are growing and learning and developing emotions and all of that. So I'm always going to take their side. Like I'm just, and I wouldn't let him discipline them either. I was like, the disciplining is on me. Like that's my job. That's not your job.
Mm.
But so just last week, my husband did something which I perceived to be really mean to one of my teenagers. My teenager asked him to get him a chocolate shake whenever he was out at this fast food place. And whenever we got home, my husband was like, "Oh, your shake's in the fridge." And then my teenager went over and opened the fridge and he starts laughing, like, "Haha, just kidding. I didn't get you one." And I was so mad. And my teenager like closed the fridge and went into his room. And so 2 days ago, I was like, that was really messed up. Like that made me upset. And he was like, "You want me to go and get him the shake and bring it back for him?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think that would be a nice move. I think you going there, getting him a shake and bringing it back and telling him like, yo, it was a messed up joke. I'm sorry. Like here, I'm making up for it." And so he did that. He went and got the shake and brought it back to him. And I was in the car with my son yesterday and I said something about the shake. And he was like, "Yeah, mom, I wasn't that mad about it." And I was like, "You weren't?" And he was like, "No, I knew he was joking. It wasn't that big of a deal." And I was like, "Man, that was my bullshit. That was my own bullshit from my childhood that I had projected onto my son." And I was like, "Oh man," I said, "I'm sorry. I projected that shit." He was like, "Yeah, you did."
That's interesting though, because I wonder how many of us do that in our
Mhm.
day-to-day lives, not just with kids. I was wondering where that was going because I didn't want to say it, but it sounded a little bit funny. Then I'm so glad your teenager found. I'm glad your
He
teenager found
did.
that funny
Yeah.
as well. Because
Yeah.
I was starting to feel like, am I a terrible person? Like because
Yeah.
I thought that was quite funny. Uh, but no, do you know what, Dan? I think I'm really glad that that was such a great story to sort of speak about how these beliefs that we have and our own shit can get in the way of how we treat people, how we treat ourselves, and things like that. So thanks for bringing that. And yeah, I'm glad that you finished with that because I was starting to feel like I was a really bad guy then.
Yeah.
'Cause that's, well, it sort of almost sounded a little bit like something I would do.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
thinking, maybe you just don't do that to teenagers. Maybe I wouldn't have dealt with that well when
Nope,
I
it's
was a
just a
teen.
mother with childhood trauma.
Listen, we all carry stuff though, don't we? That's the thing,
Absolutely.
and I think we all carry so much, and I think being aware of it is the most important thing that we can do as people, because once we're aware of
Mhm.
it, we can then begin to fix it, can't we? And we all project stuff, and often that comes from like the most important people in your life, or you project it to the people most important in trying to protect them, you know. And I feel like that's part of being a parent, part of being a son or a daughter or whatever.
For sure.
Um, so, Dana, I want to start bringing this to an end. Um, we spoke about mindset, we spoke
Mhm.
about leadership, and how do you feel bringing those two together? What sort of result that has on your life since you started? Because you've been quite clear on saying like it hasn't always been like this for you. You've had to develop this confidence, this self-love. So we're working on that, or someone maybe that's not quite there. What advice would you give them, or how can you demonstrate how that's affected your life?
My advice is to really be gentle with yourself because I'm still not there. There are days when I wake up and you know, have imposter syndrome, or I don't think I'm good enough, or I just get really down on myself about things. And recognizing that feeling is just a feeling. It's not the truth. It's just a lie that you're telling yourself because we're wired to be critics of ourselves, and knowing that it's going to pass.
Mm,
Tomorrow, you might wake up and feel great, like who knows what's going on, like maybe you have a pep talk from somebody that you really look up to, or maybe you surround yourself with 1,000 women that are all vibrating at 100, or you listen to a podcast that inspires you. You really need to be conscious about who you're letting into your energy, what you're giving your energy to, and what you're consuming. If
mm,
you are feeling like you're comparing yourself to a lot of other people and you're upset that this person has, 100,000 followers and you have 10 followers, stop going on social media for the week. Give yourself that break. You do not need to purposely hurt your own feelings. Like, stop hurting your own feelings and give yourself time to regroup and time to recharge, and start consuming stuff that lights you up instead of stuff that dims you down.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I think I might call the podcast "Stop Hurting Yourself" or "Stop Hurting Your Own Feelings."
Yeah.
I think that might be the title of the podcast. And Dayna, I've really enjoyed speaking to you. And for anyone that's got this far, I just want to say Dayna's podcast is absolutely amazing as well. You are good energy. Do you know what I mean? You're a
Oh,
definition
thank
of good. So,
you.
Dayna, can you plug your podcast name, where people can find you? And I can
Sure,
put it in the description.
absolutely. So if you want to find me on Instagram, my handle is at Trophy Wife Dayna, and Dayna is spelled Dayna. And from there, you can get my links. I have that Trophy Wife Life comedy and self improvement podcast. And then I also have the Dirty Little Secrets Club. And if you are in entertainment yourself, if you're an actor or a singer or a dancer or a podcaster or an author, go hit up the Entertainers Network on Instagram. We're really starting to promote people. I'm having people do interviews. It helps them get published. It gets their name out there. They can add it to their media kit. And we have some big plans. We have some articles coming through from some casting directors and music executives and stuff like that. And I'd really like to turn it into a hub where entertainers across the board can be featured and also kind of join together to lift each other up.
And I fully believe that you're going to make that all happen, Dayna, and display good leadership along the way. Just before we go, dirty little secret. Can you just tell us a little bit about just tell us a little bit about that?
So we all have a little bit of a dark side too, right? And so I think, being a human in general, recognizing that we all have things and it doesn't make us bad people. It's just, what keeps us ticking. So over at the Dirty Little Secrets Club, people write in anonymously their dirty little secrets, and we talk about them on the show. We try and make it a judgment-free zone, although there are times that we're like, what the fuck, bro? But it's a really fun show. My co-host is Brimstone. He's a former pro wrestler and he's a show host as well, and amongst many other things. He's dipped his toes in all of the pools. But it's a really fun show. I love seeing like the inner workings, the inner dark side of people also is kind of fascinating, and really fun too. Like there's a lot of fun stuff that goes on over there too.
Yeah, that must be gold for a comedian to pick some of that stuff up as well. You must get some good stand up out of that.
Oh yeah, it's very good.
For those that are still here with us, I just want to thank you for your time. Go subscribe to the channels, follow on Instagram. You'll find me at Real Talk George. Dayna's stuff is going to be in the description. So you can go for it. Dayna, be sure to go and check out a podcast. Maybe submit a dirty little secret of your own. But other than that, thanks for your time. Dayna, lovely speaking to you.
You too. This was amazing. This was a good chat.
Absolutely. Thank you, people.